Hi everyone, today we got more selling as we expected. You can see that lower low here, low, lower low. Also got below this low here. Tried to retrace a little bit, hit that 21 EMA and then sold into the close, and now that's kind of where we're at. But let's take a really quick look at all of the charts as we head into a big day of trading tomorrow. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, nothing really on the economic side, but Congress did pass the Jeffrey Epstein bill, and now it is going to Trump to sign. It'll be interesting to see if he signs it. Definitely going to be a spicy one if this gets all the way pushed out and passed. I think Trump is going to have a hard time vetoing it. Even if he does veto it, I think they have enough in the House and the Senate to override that and get it passed anyway, but definitely going to be spicy. Wouldn't expect anything economic. Maybe there is. There could be people that are in these files that are so powerful or rich that they could potentially affect the economy. If Elon was in them, for example, I imagine that would have a massive effect on his companies and Tesla and probably the broader markets. So it's not impossible. I just thought this was interesting, and really there was not a whole lot else in the news today. Looking at fear and greed, we got down to an 11. We said the peak low here was around a 3 or 4, and that was about as low as it'll go. So got a little bit of room before we can get to that peak low level. I think this is going to get into that zone. We're not at the point where it's start to buy things with both hands quite yet. Got the 125 EMA sitting there at 64.26. This might trend all the way to it while this is kind of coming together. Extreme fear on just about every single metric here, and actually we did hit every metric with the volatility spiking up here today. VIX at a 24.6, so every single metric in extreme fear. Usually that's an okay time to start trading to the bull side, but I do think that there is a little bit more selling to come. Moving over to earnings, Home Depot missed on earnings, beat on revenues, Medtronic beating on both, but of course the big name is tomorrow, NVDA after hours tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. There are a few others, Walmart on Thursday, but that is not as impactful. NVIDIA is definitely the biggest one, and right now it is absolutely holding up markets in my opinion. And then moving over to the economic calendar, not a whole lot for today. Continuing jobless claims, initial jobless claims, haven't seen those in a while. Numbers were pretty much in line with estimates, a little bit worse than estimate, but not too bad. This has been trending up here for a little bit now. That is part of why the markets, the FOMC has been cutting rates, so it'll be interesting to see if that continues. And then looking at tomorrow, not a whole lot either. FOMC minutes, that's going to be interesting. But Thursday's the big one here. You can see Thursday, we get all of that unemployment data that we've been missing. If this is bad here, 4.3 was the previous number. If this starts to step up to like a 4.4 or 4.5, that would be absolutely catastrophic for markets in my opinion. Moving over to Max Pain here. Max Pain is a 670, stock price 660. Total options just over 3 million now. Put call ratio still pretty high at a 4.1. I would guess that the low is probably in here. Unless we get a crazy result with NVIDIA, that could absolutely crater markets. And of course, the unemployment data could absolutely be one of the pieces of data that could push us below these levels. But as of right now, I just don't think there is enough information to say we're going to go too much lower from current price without a major catalyst. Fear and greed's already at a very low number. Put call ratio at a high number. Usually that means markets are probably going to stabilize, at least in the short term. Moving over to the charts, you can see we did get continued selling here today. 0.84, broken structure, 55 EMA broken here. Broke yesterday, got the continuation off of that level, and now you can see it here. 653.17 is kind of my next level, right at the low back here from that kind of 10 and then 14 October zone here. Surprised we didn't get to it. I would suspect that we will. You can see we're kind of in no man's land here. 667 is the upper resistance. Right there, 55 EMA in that same area. Maybe it comes up to here and then goes lower, but either way, this is still a very consistent downtrend, structurally broken. If this is going to be a left shoulder head, right shoulder, this would be the neckline. You'd want to see it come down, tag that neckline, get a nice bounce into maybe 670 or so, and then you get that bigger continuation. If we get that, that is going to be absolutely catastrophic. So watching this zone, very important zone here on the SPY. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we hit that lowest band once again, 656 area, and then we bounced slightly and then sold back off. Lowest band now is sitting at 652.40, so that would give you kind of a target for tomorrow's low, potentially. That has been working well. But moving over here to the daily chart, I want to highlight that we did finally get that SPY flip into bearish conditions. You can see we were flipped to bearish here briefly, got that kind of head, at least that's what we're looking at it as right now. And now we're back into bearish conditions. Your trailing stop, 692.85. Lowest ATR band sitting there at 653.18. Again, that's right in that same region that we've been talking about. Right in line with this, 89 EMA, I would suspect that's going to be the low of the week if we do get there. And right now that 89 EMA is there at 654. Moving over to the Qs here, you can see we dipped lower here as well, 1.22%. Got the level right there, 595 was the support. Still held that on a closing basis, but of course overthrew it down to kind of 591, 592 area. And then we got maybe a slightly higher low here, zone of support, like I said, 595. If that goes, I don't really have a whole lot in here. The only thing I would be looking at would be this high from back here in August around kind of 581. And let's go ahead and throw on that level here. 582.09 is the open from the 13 August candle. That gives you something to work with here right in that high zone from that mid-August. That would be my next zone of support if 595 broke. But again, either way, low, lower, low, lower, low, high, lower, high, lower, high, right? So this continues to downtrend, structurally broken. If we get the head and shoulders, you got a zone of support in here, 589, but really 582 is that next zone if this area breaks. Moving over to the Tasty charts, this continues to be bearish here. 89 EMA there at 589.57 on the daily chart. Bearish conditions here on the trailing stop, 636.74 was that zone of resistance. Volume on the selling, momentum very bearish. This is likely to be a short-term bottom here pretty soon, right? Got that 89 EMA. I think that's going to be important here on the daily chart. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, you can see pretty much went to that lowest ATR band. That was your next zone of support. Right now that's sitting at 588.50, so just a little bit lower than the low today. And then the same setup here on the hourly chart, hit that lowest band, bounced a little bit. It's holding up okay right now, but still would expect that to sell a little bit more. The low on the hourly is a little bit lower, 587.50, but right in that same area, 588 zone. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow here, you can see the Russell actually was positive on the day, 0.31, hit the zone of support here, 232.09, trend support in there, touched that zone yesterday, bounced all the way up to 235 in here, which was interesting, and then rejected from that area. Still very much selling structure, still very much bearish. You can see VWAP and the 55 EMA about to cross levels there. 21 going to be pretty close behind it, and then this is going to be a pretty true downtrend once all of those EMAs and VWAP cross. And then you can see here, same really on the Dow, the 9 and the 21 are crossing pretty much right now at 472.42, 9 EMA just below the 21 right here, and then 55 structure is broken now, so your next zone of support would be in here. That same low from mid-October we've been talking about around 454. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple actually held up really well, unchanged on the day. You can see still hanging in there okay, momentum bearish, RSI still bearish. Apple's held up really well relatively, and that's no surprise that it continued to do so. Microsoft, on the other hand, gapped massively below that level. We talked about 506 being that support area. If that broke, we were headed back to here. If this area breaks, then you're probably headed back down to kind of 466 area. And look at that candle, 2.7% to the downside, got as low as 487, pretty much right there at the low. Kind of a doji candle, wide ranging candle, but this is definitely rolling again. If this zone breaks on a closing basis, the low from that 5 September candle, this is probably going to go down to 466. So big topping pattern. We've been talking about it forever. I thought we might kind of go sideways for a bit, but it looks like this is going to break sooner. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, some of the best stocks in the market right now. 1.88% on Tesla. Bounced off the level, 384, bounced right to 1450 over the last 3 days, and now we're kind of in the middle of this range here. No clear direction. Structurally a little bit bearish on the EMAs. Still got a zone of support in here around kind of 360 area. Wouldn't expect this to sell off crazy. They did get some news around robotaxi starting in Arizona, so that's good for them. And then looking at NVIDIA, still in this zone of support, 180 is that zone, came down, tagged that level, down 2.8% on the day. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. If this breaks structure, this is going to go down to this area here, in my opinion, around 165, and then I would expect buyers to come in at least a little bit. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, this was absolutely risk off here today. You can see discretionaries, massive sell here, 1.85%, and a lot of that was coming from Amazon, which cratered, I think, about 4.5% today. So big moves there. Went through the level 227. We said that was an important level. Went through that level, went through the 144 EMA as well. So your next support's all the way down at 219. This is a very clear double top now with this neckline being broken today, and now it looks like this is going to go down to that 219 area. Staples, on the other hand, were positive. 0.43, held that 9 EMA. Looks like this is going to hold maybe a slightly higher low here. Moving over to breadth. Breadth actually did not move that much, so we're getting bigger selling, and the selling is accelerating, but breadth is not going too much lower yet. So that to me means there's probably a little bit more room to fall. We need breadth to hit some of these critical levels around 16 here, around 26 on the 50-day. We're not near those levels yet, so there's probably more room to fall. Definitely be careful if you're trying to trade bullish really at all right now. Moving over to the dollar was positive on this session. Not a lot, but a little. About 6 cents on the day. Like to see it getting back above the 9, back above the 21 EMA, so that is definitely bullish. Want to see it hold all of these support areas here. Start to push towards that 200 and get through there and head towards 101. That is still what I'm hoping is going to happen, and that is absolutely still a viable thesis here. The only concern that I really have is this RSI. You got a peak RSI zone. We're getting close to that level with a much lower RSI and below the SMA. So that is potentially signaling that this is going to be a lower high at a zone of resistance. If that culminates, then this is likely to head back down to the 55 EMA around 98.58, but for now, this structurally is still holding. Moving over to bonds. Bonds were not great on the day, down 0.05 and 0.03 respectively, so pretty much unchanged. Don't suspect that J&K is going to be positive here. This looks like a broader topping pattern, same as everything else. Same really here on TLT. You got a zone of support that I'm watching, and here around 88.30. We're below the level 89.16, so need to see support hold in here if it's going to do it. Otherwise, this is still a little bit bearish. Moving over to the VIX. VIX got all the way up into this 26 area. Did not hit the level yet at 28.89. Expecting it to hit that at the very least. At this point, the way that it's accelerating, I think this might go as high as 33, but either way, expecting 28 to happen over the next couple days. Momentum bullish, RSI very bullish. Moving over to my accounts, I did absolutely nothing, continuing to just let the market fall without me, which honestly is better than I have done in the past, so I'm actually kind of proud of that in the short term. Ideally, I would trade this to the downside. I've been pretty bearish. The structure has been pretty bearish, and I think it was pretty clear that this was going to happen, which is why I had no issues getting out of the markets and not going along with it over the last couple days. But either way, sitting it out, watching markets fall without me, I think a zone of support, like I said, on a couple of the charts is pretty close. I think we'll see some bounces from those areas that I highlighted, and then ultimately we'll get the bigger continuation lower. But for now, I think we'll get a short-term bounce getting close to a relative bottom. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Are they going to come out? Will they ever actually be released? Will Trump try to veto and have to get overridden in the Congress, or will he just sign it? Let me know what you think. Will there be any effects on the economy? That'll be interesting. Put it down in the comments. Otherwise, like and subscribe. If you got any value out of this video, make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.